Okay, how's it going, everyone? Good morning. Welcome back to the stream. So yesterday we had a little surprise appearance from this guy over here, Jordan. You did a little lesson on how to stress your position and why that's so important. But today we're going to get back into doing some trade analysis. So I have a couple of things that I want to look at today, but primarily we're going to just be doing a market scan and talking through sort of the thought process behind finding trading opportunities. The really cool thing about using a scanner or a data terminal is that it allows you to take a lot of information, huge amounts of information, and filter through it for where you can maybe find an opportunity that not everyone's looking at, or allow you to look at opportunities that everyone's looking at from a different perspective. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk about a few of the big things happening in the market. One of the things I noticed right off the bat that I found interesting was that the Boeing 737s are starting to make a comeback. So I'm going to be taking a look at a few of the airline stocks. I also came across an opportunity this morning while doing a scan on PSTH, which is Bill Ackman's fund. Vols are just through the roof on it, meaning that the options in the near and far dated are extremely expensive. And we're going to get into what we can do about that, what might be driving it. We're currently in a trade on ARK, but ARKG, which is their some sort of biotech fund run by Kathy Woods, I believe, is also through the roof on vols, something we can take a look at. And then besides that, we're going to just hop into a normal scan. There's no earnings today for us to talk about. We'll see earnings come out in the near future, moving into the next earnings season, and we'll be spending a lot of time on that. Jekka, Ned, what's going on, guys? PA roll call. I know, Ned, honestly, I was surprised too when I saw Jekka here. I'm like, this guy actually showing up? Blew my mind. But yeah, for those of you who are new to the stream, my name is Sean Ryan. I'm the co-founder of Predicting Alpha. You can think of Predicting Alpha as Bloomberg for the retail trader. Basically, we provide high-quality professional data at an affordable price, right? Find out why people pay $25,000 a year for data by tuning into this stream. And if you like what you see, you can always check out predictingalpha.com to pick up your own terminal in education. So first things first, PSTH. I came across this trade this morning when doing a quick scan. I just threw on my filter for liquidity and price above 15 just to sort of start off narrowing down the pool of potential stocks I could look at. So now I'm looking at about 305 different stocks. Now what I wanted to do was, the first thing I wanted to do was find stocks that maybe had high IV rank. Right, stocks that have been trading with a high level of implied volatility now relative to what they've been trading at historically. And then I sorted for implied versus forecasted volatility. So one of the things that we always have to remember is, as traders, it's not just about what the market thinks or what we think. It's about what we think relative to what the market thinks. Imagine you think a stock is going to go up, in the near future, it's a good buy, but everybody else thinks it's a good buy. Well, today's price is going to reflect the fact that it's a good buy, and there may not be a trade there if you're in complete agreement with the market. So we need to figure out, okay, where do we disagree with the market? And the place that we can really start when we're looking at the option space is, do we agree on the implied volatility of the options that we're trading? Right? That's always a good starting place. Market says the stock is going to move at 73% implied volatility. Do you think that is a good reflection of what's going to happen to the stock in the near future? If you think that it's too high, well, then you might think that the options are a little bit expensive and you might want to be looking at a short vol opportunity. Whereas if you think that the implied volatility is too low, well, now you're in a spot where maybe you want to be buying some volatility or buying some options. And the more refined you can make that view that you have, the more you can compare it against what the market's saying and structure out something kind of cool. So PSTH, Bill Ackman's fund, basically this fund is trading at a level of 73.96 implied volatility, and our forecast is just at 50% implied vols here. So off the bat, I was like, wow, what the hell's going on here, right? What is this thing? Why is this being priced at such a high level? Before I get into the why, one of the things I was looking at was this vol cone here. So normally, when we're looking at stocks, around this time, I always say, let's take off the max and the min, because it's usually very skewed data due to the fact that we had the highest levels of implied volatility in 10 years, 6 months ago. But for this stock, we can actually throw those back on because the levels of implied volatility that we're seeing right now, especially in the far dated options, is almost at the max. We're seeing huge levels of implied volatility right now, near dated and far dated. I'm trying to understand what the heck's going on here because this is looking like a really good sell. And I'm actually going to show you a trade that you can use to take advantage of this while not having exposure to any, a ton of exposure to crazy upside moves. So I'll show you exactly how I'd go about doing that in probably about a couple of minutes here. I just want to complete my analysis first. So interesting thing we can see here is that as the stock rallies, as PSTH rallies, we actually have a increase in implied volatilities, which is a really interesting thing for a fund. And this might have to do with, Bill Ackman's, big bets historically on things crashing or things rallying like crazy. He was the guy with the whole Herbalife thing. And I believe he did a whole, Bill Ackman was really vocal during the whole crash this year and everything, right?
Yeah.
So that could be driving a lot of volatility. Something that I saw as well that I thought was interesting was it's actually huge on StockTwits, right? 15,000 people watching it. Everybody is bullish on this thing. 97.41% bullish, right? This is an accurate reflection of what we see in the retail space, right? StockTwits, biggest platform for retail stock communication. And the coolest thing they give us is access to the sentiment, right? We can actually see what these people are thinking based on their keywords and what they signal it as. We can also see that message volumes are above average, right? We say the average is about here at around 1,000 a day. We're seeing about 1,500 messages per day. If we try to look up some news for PSTH, let's see what's coming up. All right. Perishing Square SPAC shares gain as deal anticipation builds. Okay, so there's some sort of deal that they're looking at. Let's see what's going on here. Right, this is the type of information we want. Let's go back to the terminal for a second, actually. Okay, take a look at this. Skew analysis basically shows us where is the demand and where are people willing to overpay for options. Okay, that's a simple way of looking at it. And we can see here that if on the left side is calls and on the right side is puts, we can see that there's huge demand for upside calls and out of the money calls relative to the puts. So there's huge upside bias in the market right now, right? Basically saying that if this thing moves big, it's going to move big to the upside. And that sort of falls in line with what we see in the retail space, right? Tons of people looking at this thing, huge sentiment. Right, it's one bearish guy right here off the top. But basically, this is looking like a stock that everyone thinks is going to go to the moon. And then when we come look at the news here, we see that, shares are gaining value as deal anticipation builds. Okay. A lot of chatter about this acquisition. Yeah. Nothing super special here. Basically, people are just thinking that, it's Bill Ackman. He's been on a tear recently. He's making an acquisition. Stock should jump. Well, one thing that I'd want to look at is, how certain are we about this acquisition, right? If I were to go a level deeper on my research, I'd be looking at, okay, what is this deal? What are they buying? And how far along are they in determining if they're actually going to go through with this deal? Because if it's a sure thing, well, then today's price would reflect that acquisition goes through, and these extremely expensive upside calls might be extremely overvalued. So one thing I want to take a look at here, and then we're going to hop in to take a look at the trade, is I want to see how the implied and realized volatilities for the 90 days have moved together, because we'll do 60 day because I'm actually gonna be looking at trading around February when we hop into it. So let's have a look. Okay, so we can see, it's actually been slightly increasing over time, but we're nearing that top of range again, right? As we saw, if we go back to the vol cone, top of range for the far dated, we're pretty much there. We come back to our relative value, we're seeing something pretty similar again. Let's see how the IV90 and IV30 move quick. Okay, wow. Pretty crazy. Okay. So yeah, something I would look at here for sure is maybe taking advantage of selling some of these upside calls. Right? These look super pricey, and I'm going to show you a trade we can throw on to actually structure this out. So the first thing I did was I came here to the PSTH option chain, taking a look at February here, and take a look at this, right? The 25, we don't have a ton of strikes, but let's look at 25, 30, and 35 on the call side, right? If we look at the implied vols, we can see that, it jumps from 51, 69, 87, 95, right? We have this huge, huge skew in the call side, and we maybe want to take advantage of this. So let's come here and let's maybe sell one of these calls. Okay. So check this out. One second. Okay, so here's the call. Now we can see, we have a maximum gain here of about $1,000, and we have this huge downside potential, right? And we don't really want this, right? This is crazy. So what we can do is we can hedge our delta on this. All right, one second. PSTH 19th, 35 call. Okay, so what we can do is we can take advantage of the high implied volatility of this option while hedging our delta to basically remove that directional bias, right? So now we're trading the implied vol level. So what we can do is let's buy some stocks here, right, to offset our delta, which is at 180. So let's buy 180 shares. And where are we trading at right now? We're trading at right about here, right? 25.81. So we're trading it right about here. And you can see that we're pretty flat. But actually for this, I might go a little bit less on my deltas, maybe 160, to have a little more exposure to the downside. Just because the market is implying, right? Let's take a look here. One thing we can take from this skew analysis is the market's implying the most likely move to be a move to the downside, right? Whereas if we get that huge risk, it's to the upside. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more downside exposure, right? I want to have a little bit negative leaning deltas going into this trade. But here is the position that I would probably look at putting on for February, right? If we see a 20% rally, we're still pretty good. We're pretty flat across the board here. And what we're really going to be looking, I still have my vols changed. I wanted to show you this, right? So we're trading at about here. What we're really looking to make money on is a change in the level of implied vols. So let's say we get that drop, comes down 20%. There we go. We're going to start making some money off the bat. Any questions about this position? Right? We're basically saying that the level of implied volatility on PSTH is just way too high. Right? We do our analysis. We look at the volatility cone. We look at the distribution of returns. We can see there is that fat right tail. We could get that big jump, right? Which makes sense why we're seeing this call skew. Makes sense why we're seeing implied vols go up over here. But we're seeing that disproportionately, we can expect smaller moves to the upside. All right, we can see skews about what it usually is. If we take a look at the price chart here, right, it looks like it's actually a relatively new thing. But, we're not seeing historically that the move that justifies this skew. So this has probably been a good sell for quite some time, right? We have this elevated level of implied vol. I'd be looking to sell here. All right, we did our relative value analysis. I think it's looking pretty good. If anyone has any more insight into the research of it, right, we can see what's driving it right now. It's this acquisition that they're looking at, right? These SPACs have been all the rage recently in the retail space. We're seeing that, with this one too, looking here at about 15,000 watchers. Everybody's bullish. I always sit here and ask myself, I know they have to be right once in a while, but what are the odds that the retail masses are, right? At the end of the day, somebody has to lose, right? And who's most likely to be on the wrong side of the trade, right? It's probably the people rallying around getting hyped about it. So let's keep on moving here. So that's the first trade that I wanted to take a look at, right? PSTH. Something else that I want to take a quick look at is just what's happening around the airlines right now. Just because the 737s getting super hype again, right? Let's take a look at what's happening with Boeing, actually. We're seeing implied vols are up a little bit elevated for Boeing. If we come here, we take a look at the volatility cone for them. Right, we're seeing far dated vol pretty pricey right now. With all the news coming out about 737s, this could be elevated because people are looking at this increase in revenue if people start buying the 737s again. So if you have any sort of specialization in the airline space, I'd love to chat with you or hear your thoughts, because what are the odds that these things get bought up again like crazy, right? Like, what can we expect to happen with Boeing that the market might be pricing in here, right? Is it really likely that their revenues bounce back heavy in the next 90 days, or that the stock goes to zero? Or is this level of implied volatility maybe not justified, right? We are still seeing it under the third quantile, so it's not like crazy overvalued right now. But what are the odds that we see some of this right tail action over here? Is there really a chance that happens right now, or are we pretty safe looking at this as a selling opportunity? So let's take a look and see if there's anything that we can trade long vol right now. And one thing that's popping up right here is Lemonade. Anyone familiar with this stock? Drop a comment below if this is something that's on your radar. Right, we're seeing, wow, really high level of implied volatility, which makes me a little skeptical to be on the short side of this. But we're seeing that realized volatility has just been through the roof. Kyle, the lemonade company makes lemons? Isn't that like the reverse of what the saying is? When life gives you lemonade, turn it back into lemons? I don't know, man. Let's take a look at what's going on here. New industry. Whoa. Okay, so we kind of have to make a bet here on what's going to happen, right? Like, if we wanted to take a trade here, what's more likely to happen in this situation? Let's go back to relative value, right? The question we have to ask ourselves, right? We see this gap between implied and realized, but let's take a look at this. The implied, right? The implied is at the top of its range for what we see for it, okay? And the realized is at all-time highs. This is the highest in the last, well, I guess it's a new company, right? So it's not been out for very long. But this is the highest level of realized volatility we've seen for it. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, which is a better indicator of what's more likely to happen? This implied vol that's sort of floated around the same since inception, or this realized vol that's been spiking up to the moon? Now, if we go back to Vol Insights, we see that we actually had a huge move again today, right? The stock moved like crazy, but it's not moving at 140 vol anymore. So I would be asking myself, what do I think is happening for the stock? Is there going to be continued surprises for it? If there is, well, then maybe implied vol will actually increase to meet this realized vol, or will we see this realized vol come down to meet the implied vol? Right? Depending on what our view is on that, we could structure a long or short vol trade in this particular situation. Right? Given our analysis, we think that it'll be somewhere in the middle, right? But because it's somewhere in the middle, it's still a long vol opportunity. You could be buying some volatility going into it. The only thing that makes me a little skeptical about doing that is the fact that we are trading at such high levels of realized volatility, right? So the stock is moving a lot. And because of that, it's like, well, can this thing keep moving at 5% a day? If this thing has a week where it doesn't move, does this implied vol get crushed? Right? That's the only concern that I would have going into this trade. Right? It's not necessarily like the difference between the two; it's the level. Right? It's just so high. Let's take a look at Edit. I believe that's one that's been on people's radars for a bit. Kyle, is that one that you were looking at? Kyle, let me know if that's a trade that you were taking a look at, because we have far dated volatility at all-time highs. Stock has moved like crazy. Wow. 18% down today. Kyle, we're looking at Edit. EDIT. Editas Medicine.
I think Neil was in that one as well.
Did he just get crushed?
I told him to stay away, so I don't know if
he, yeah?
I don't know if he listened.
I don't know if he listened, man, but it's down 17% today.
Wow.
Oh, man. Well, I hope Neil got out of this because the real... Look at this. Oh, my God. Oh, I hope they closed because they would have got smoked on this position. That's so funny. Oh, it's not funny, but, you know, they're pretty hype about it and then realize... And I get why they sold it, right? You know, implied vols were just through the roof. But, right, well, what happened with the stock? Did some news come out? Poor Jekka, man. Return on capital employed. Let's take a look at this article. Okay. Okay, nothing too major here. Stock's just moving like crazy. We're seeing a decrease in option activity though, right? You know, pretty low for this time of the day, especially with the size of moves. I thought we would have been seeing something a lot more. Pretty much no bias in the news or retail sentiment. Both are at 50%, and media coverage is down. So, you know, once this thing settles down, it might be an opportunity again. But geez, after seeing this, I'd probably be personally staying away from it as well. Now, what's going on with ARKG? That's one that I wanted to take a look at. Right, if we go ARKG stock, we take a look at what it is, right? It's the ARK Genomic Revolution ETF. Let's see what their holding is. The ARK funds. Wow. Let's see, right? This is one of the retail, really hype ones. Fund holdings PDF. Let's have a look. Let's see what these guys actually hold. Okay. So it's a whole bunch of these kind of... Let's see what PACB is. Okay, so there's all these like, you know, couple $1 billion biotech companies. So this is one of this seems like a bit of a lottery ticket fund. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. What do you guys think? Have any of you taken a look at ARKG? I'm getting lottery ticket fund vibes from it. It's like a long vol fund. Right, you're gonna have a lot of small losers, the occasional big winner. Long-term growth capital. Okay. Yeah, no, you know, so off the bat, this thing has the potential to rip, but, you know, if we look at how it's diversified, right, there's no one holding that's huge, right? So even if this doubled, you know, we'd see only a 5% increase in the actual price. And, you know, given the fact that it's diversified across industries and across, you know, countries as well, I'm not sure if I'd be too concerned about this thing like blowing through the roof. But let's take a look at the terminal, see what we can see about it. Right, once again, far dated vol, super high, right? 53%. It's basically at the max, 4 points below it for the vol cone here. 90-day options looking pretty pricey. We come here, we take a look at the 90-day. We're seeing huge call skew to the 90 days, the call side there for the 90-day options. We're seeing in the future. What's going on here? Some big event about 1 year out. I don't know what the heck's going on here. Oh wait, no, I have the wrong. No, one thing. Non-event and implied are on top of each other. Okay, so no event. Yeah, it's a fund. But they're basically saying that no vols being priced in for the far term. That might just be some bad data. But taking a look at this, how is this thing down 10% right now? What the hell happened to this?
We're looking at ARC G2?
Yeah.
That's so funny. I was looking at it as well.
What the hell's going on here? It's down 7.31, it's saying on here. This is nuts. Took a bit of a beating. Jordan, you seeing anything interesting on it?
Not really, to be honest.
Not as good as ARC.
Yeah, I think ARC still has more edge than this one.
But if you have any particular insights into that, biotech space, that'd probably be the one to take a look at. How's ARC Vol looking today, Jordan?
It's a little bit. It's actually catching a bit again.
Really?
Yeah.
It's trading at what, 47, 48?
It is, it's trading at almost 50 vol.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
49, 48.
So yeah, this is a trade that we're in right now. We are in on ARC. Vols are picking up on it again. We're short volatility on it right now on the far dated options. We're trading like the July options. We just think that the level of implied volatility it's at right now, it's not sustainable. We're trading above the third quantile here. And for a fund of this size, with the type of holdings that it has, it doesn't make sense for it to be trading at this level. We're expecting it to mean revert down about 10 points here. 8 to 10 points, at which point we'll take it off, hopefully for a nice profit. But this makes up a good portion of my book right now. And we've done a couple lives on this one already, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about ARC. Taking a look at what industries are moving right now. Let's take a look at what the vols are. You can see that vols are down or flat for SPY, down a bit for the NASDAQ. USO vols are prices picking up again. And, not a bad day, right? Vols are up a bit on SPY, down a bit on the Qs. Nothing too major for us to really take a look at on a macro level. Things are pretty good. This ARC position coming down 4.9% here was really good for me, actually. I was under hedged. I was short vol at a pretty low price. And having it come back down a bit here has been pretty good for me. Oh, wait, what the hell's going on? Cool. So, with that being said, those are really the trades that I wanted to take a look at today. I think this PLTH one, or PL, what was the stock? PSTH. This PSTH trade is looking pretty juicy. Obviously do a little more due diligence before you hop in on this. This is just a trade I came across this morning, so obviously I would be doing the same a little after this live stream. But I think it's totally worth taking a look at here. Far dated vol is just trading at such a high number. Obviously, I know these SPACs have been moving like crazy recently. Everyone has their eye on them. But listen, this thing's implying, 90 vol for the 90-day options, right? Remember when we were looking at those Februaries? If we structure our trade out where we sell the expensive out of the money calls, we buy shares to hedge. We're not exposed to that change in delta, or that we don't have that delta exposure. It might be worth throwing this on in some okay size in your account. So with that being said, do you have any trades in particular that you want me to take a look at for you? Drop them in the comment box and we'll go over them now. That's how we like to end off the show. Any trades that you're looking at that you want to pull some data for, maybe get that insight beyond the chart, right? Remember, what we're trying to do here is showcase the type of information that we look at to place confident trades. When I go in and I think something's cheap and I buy it, or expensive and I sell it, I'm not upset when, things move against me, or if I have if the trade doesn't work out in my favor, because the methodology that I'm trying to use to get to that decision is sound. Right? I know that by executing on this type of methodology over and over again, I should hopefully come out a long-term winner. NVS. Lawrence, you want to let me know what you're looking at for these? Oh, wow. What the heck's going on here? NVS stock. This is really interesting. Having a little trouble pulling the press release information for it, but that's okay. So articles published are down. 50-50 sentiment. Is this one of the how's this thing on StockTwits? A lot of people looking at it. Novartis. Okay, not a ton of watchers. Super bullish on it though, those who are watching it. The market inefficiencies are incredible, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This thing's going down. Wow, people are losing their minds on this, eh? Okay, it's looking like the retailer are trying to get out now. Means it's a time to buy, guys. Let's have a look at what the vol insights are looking like. Okay, at the money vol, through the roof for the near dated. What's going on here? Do they have something coming up? Nope, no earnings coming up. Stock's not been moving anywhere near the level of implied vol. All right, let's maybe pull it up here. Let's go back for a second. Wow, we're basically trading right at the max. Right now is the max implied vol we've seen for the short-term options. So let's hop back over to here. This is pretty cool. Right, if we look at the 15s, the Jans. Okay, let's see. Implied vols. Okay, so there might be some... Lawrence, there might be some bad data going on there because I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go. 60. Oh, there's the implied vol. I have my columns all mixed up here. Yeah, so I'm not seeing as high of an implied vol on it as I am in the terminal. There might be some bad data going on there, Lawrence. So I would, this is one of the things you always want to do, right? You want to check between the terminal and your brokerage before you slap on the trade, just to make sure that the numbers, the data you're getting is accurate with what you're getting real time from your brokerage. So let's also take a look at IBM, see what's going on with that. Okay, IBM's looking super bid. Let's see, let's go a little deeper here. Right, 30-day vol, pretty bid. Pretty much right at the third quantile here. Is there any news that you've seen going on with this that might be driving this up? What would make the 30-day vol be so high? So we would have earnings probably in there. Let's take a look if we go to IBM. If we take a look at the Jan 15s, trading at 24 vol. So yeah, we'd probably want to go out. Jan 22s trading at 30 vol. All right, we have enough liquidity on them to make it worth our time. So we would have the earnings event in here as well, which pretty much looks in line, right? 4.3, 4.91. If we go back to our vol insights here, we can see that, vol's been outpacing, or realized vol has been like extremely low, with the implied vols being extremely high. You know what, Lawrence, a company like IBM, right, will it move at this amount, right, a little over 1% a day? Is that really likely? I think it's much more likely we see something closer to what we're seeing now, right, where we see less than a 1% a day average move. But then again, I don't know the news around it, what we're really thinking will happen in the near future. We can see that retail super bullish on IBM. If we hop over here, let's take a look at it on StockTwits quick. See what the sentiment is like. 73% here. 45,000 watchers, right? IBM's a huge company. Tons of people looking at this thing. Right. And you can see a lot of people have actually been reducing their size, the big holders. Term structure for the 30 days is the most elevated. So market seems to be implying something to be happening for this earnings event, right? If we take a look here, we can see that the implied move is the highest right here at the between the 30 and the 60 day, which is in line with what we expect to see for the event. But it might be pretty bid. Let's take a look at the relative value here. Let's just pull up IBM. Yeah. Let's take a look at the IV30, the RV20. Yeah, okay, so we can see we're nearing that top of range again, right? Remember, look, if you look at this, it's pretty evidently mean reverting, right? With the low being at around, a ratio of 0.77 and a high being around a ratio of 2 or 1.6. And right now we're at a ratio of 1.5. So we are nearing the top of that range for the implied vol, realized vol ratio for the 30-day options on IBM. So what you could be looking to do here is take a short volatility play, or you could, if you have a downside bias, you could look at structuring like a vertical or a 132. There's a little bit of that put skew here that you could take advantage of. But if you don't have a directional bias on this, and Lawrence, just for just from our conversations and what you're looking to trade, let's take a look at what an Iron Condor would be for this. So let's say we were trading the Jan 22nds here that had that earnings event priced into it. We would come here and we would want to sell the straddle to start to see what that looks like. And we see that it's about $7.82. So we can call it, $8 for each side. And we'd probably want to go one standard deviation out on this since the earnings is so far away. So let's do sell Iron Condor. We're going to put the at the money strikes both at 124, 125. That's fine. And we're going to go for the call. We're going to go $8 up. So we're going to put this at 133. And for the put, we're going to go $8 down. So we're going to put it at 116. And this is the trade that we're looking at. The wings are a little bit pricey. If you look there, we're paying about $2 for these wings. So you need to really ask yourself, right, what do I think is going to happen to this stock? If you slap this on here, if you think that implied volatility is what's going to decrease, well, let's see what happens if implied vol goes down 4 points. Okay, you'd be up $300 off the bat. And if implied vol were to go up 4 points, right, let's say maybe that's a worst case for changes in implied vol, you're down about the same there. Now, in terms of this stock moving, what could we expect to see? Let's see. Right, well, the realized volatility, let's say that the implied volatility is accurate, we can expect to see a 1% a day move. Let's see how much this thing typically goes up, an average of about 0.3% a day is the most common move. So let's say this thing rallied over the next 30 days, 6-7%. What would happen to our position? Well, let's take a look. So we're trading at 124 right now. We would be just past our break evens, right? So realistically, we're looking at a risk of about $1,000 with a pretty high potential payoff if we are right? If we look here, as time moves forward, we're going to start to make money, right? Let's take off our vol adjust here, put that back to 0. We're going to start to make money as time goes forward. If vol starts to come in, we're going to be making money too. If the stock starts to rally, we can always hedge our position, right? Lawrence, this might be a really good one for you to actually practice your delta hedging on. Might be a really good one to get in on. But this is actually looking pretty good, Lawrence. If you want to share with the guys in the chat here what filters you were using to come up with this trade and what you've looked in for it, what research you've done, it would be awesome to see. But yeah, Lawrence, I actually really like this trade. It looks really good, man. Good find. And if I were to put it on, I'd probably, I'd either go naked, sell the straddle, or this little strangle, or I would buy my wings, throw this Iron Condor, and definitely be managing my deltas if this thing starts to trend. So do we have any other stocks that we want to take a look at? We have 15 people watching on this live right now. I see you there. I see you not commenting. Let me know what trades you're looking at, and I'd be happy to break it down with you. But if you're new to the stream, also remember to subscribe. Really keeps us motivated to keep doing this live, showing you guys some data, some interesting ideas that we come across. Yeah, drop a like on the video. I want the YouTube algo gods to be very kind to predicting alpha. We threw a new logo on the video. New thumbnails, new titles. Really trying to work with work with YouTube here. Someone wants us to take a look at UUU. So this is the thing, right? A company like this right now, we don't have in the terminal. We have currently got about 1,000 of the most liquid stocks in it. And at the end of this week, we're going to be adding another 1,000 or another 1,200, at which point a company like UUU would likely be there. So if you want MRRT, come back on, probably Monday next week, and we can actually take a look at that together.
They don't have options.
They don't have options?
No options.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with that one, but Jordan's just telling me that UUU doesn't actually have options, so we wouldn't be able to really do a thorough breakdown on it. Not a problem, man. It's awesome to see you back on the stream. Happy to see you here, man. So it is 11:12. Good 40-minute stream this morning. We don't try to drag this thing out all day. We just want to come in, look at some opportunities. The only way it'll keep going after I've gone through the ones I want to look at is if you guys share some trades. Always happy to break it down with you. But look, we're going to wrap it up for the morning here. It was awesome to see you all again. PA roll call was a success in my books, and we'll see you again here tomorrow. So make sure to hit the like button on your way out the door, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Happy trading.